Hey guys, we are back. It's Ted Bogert with the Ted Show. Super excited to have this gentleman on, this youngster, Bryan McDonald. We're going to talk about the on-purpose growth community. We're going to talk about common thinking and what that does, and so much more. So welcome to the show, Bryan. How are you?
Great, and I'm actually feeling younger after that comment. So
That's good. Yeah,
yeah, yep.
that's my brings me joy in the world to make people feel better and younger.
Yeah.
But they all know about me. Tell them about you.
Oh, thanks. Well, grateful for you having me on, and definitely humbled. And it's been a journey for me. I'm in Chicago right now, but I'm a transplant. And I've planted my life here, so you know. I came here to be close to mom after I graduated from college, and then mom up and left. So I got the point, right? Like, I'm a mama's boy.
Message.
I got the message, right? So I've been in sales my entire career in new business development, new revenue growth, and I had all the bumps. I've ran into walls. I've had bad management. I have had good management. I've seen the dark side and the light side, and ups and downs. And actually, where I found my first success was in the mortgage industry.
Really?
And yeah, I was in a net branch, building my own brand and my own business inside of it. I started. I brought on an employee that I was paying for, and I niched myself into real estate investor loans, small commercial, meaning, below 5 units, and single family investments. And when the market crashed, so did I.
Yeah. It was a different time.
It was interesting. And I learned a lot about business during that journey, and what to do to generate sales and what not to do to generate sales. So I'm grateful for all of the bruises and injuries I got along the way, because it hurt. And I'm surprised I'm married, because I met my wife when I was at the top, and all she did was see the decline. So I'm lucky I'm still married, right? Like, she stuck with me for, I don't know what she was.
Because it's all about you. It's not about what you do.
Yeah.
All of that stuff. Frank says hi. Good afternoon, Sergeant Frank. Thanks for tuning in. He's watching from LinkedIn.
Cool.
And other people that I can't see, but I can see Frank. All right, so let's talk about onPurpose. So tell us what the onPurpose growth community is.
Perfect. So onPurpose Growth itself is a coaching and consulting firm that serves clients who have ambitious yearly or multi-year revenue goals actually fulfill that ambition. So what I work with, what I call and I work on the coaching side, right? My partners are on the consulting side. So that community that you're referring to is, made for what I call the corporate rejects, people that have left corporate America, and they've got some specific skill or expertise, and they said, sayonara, like, I'm done with corporate America, whether they were, chose to leave or they were displaced, and they found themselves an entrepreneur. And they've got their first handful of clients, and they just want some help, or looking for a community to help them get over those first couple of clients and grow into scale. And that's one reason why I started that community. Is it can be a lonely place as a consultant, as a service provider, who you're operating on your own, right? You're building your own brand, you're building your own business. So I built a community on Facebook to help them just have a place to talk to each other and get resources, learn things. So it's been great.
Why onPurpose? What is the thought process? That's obviously meaning you're doing it. You are intentional, is another word, but onPurpose. Why is that an important part of the community concept?
Everybody, in my opinion, everybody who starts a business has an end goal in mind, and they have an impact that they want to make. And a lot of times the path between where they're at and that destination is very unclear. And what happens is people try to, you know, anything and everything to generate business. I'll explain it this way. This is where I first learned this principle is when I was in the mortgage industry, and I won a trip to fly down to the convention of the company that I was working for in Houston. And I sat in a room and listened to a guy from Arizona, Jim, I forget his last name, but he told a story about how he had about 6 or 7 loan officers in his branch, and he literally had let them all go, got himself 2 or 3, I think it was 3 processors, and he closed more business by himself on a yearly basis than he did with himself and all those other loan officers. And when he talked about his process and how he interacted with prospective clients and clients, he did everything on purpose. He had a large intake process, and he would tell certain people that he couldn't help them and tell other people that he could. And then he went through processing and doing loans in a very specific way to actually produce those results. So I learned, it was like I learned the seed of that years and years and years ago. And then when I met my business partners, they were into systems thinking and taking systems thinking and applying it to sales. And it's just knowing what you have to do when you wake up every day and know why you're doing it, so you can start producing results and continually build on top of things, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I think people that are listening or will be listening, one of the things they'll ask is, all right, I think I'm ready. I'm tired of corporate America. I've got this idea. I've got this business I want to do. I want to get out there. I want to restructure what I'm doing. Is that something that somebody comes to you for? And if they do, what are some of the first things that they should be looking at before they make the leap?
So there's a lot there. So, you know, I'll just talk about a bunch of things that come to us. People have ideas and they have this impact that they want to make, and they don't necessarily have a clear path to make that happen. And what we help them do is give them that plan and certainty to actually fulfill that ambition that I was talking about. So, like, for instance, earlier today, I was on an early call for her, a client in Oakland. And one thing she said to me at the end, because she's been with me for about 3 months. She said, Bryan, this is kind of like you helping me kind of, you know, if I had a bow and arrow, you helping me pull back that bow and arrow and hold it here so I can figure out where to let go and shoot it at. So I'm just not like throwing out bows all the time, because that can get exhausting. So it's helping people be more predictable and strategic, at the same time staying out of analysis paralysis mode.
Talk about that, because that is a real thing that I don't know any entrepreneur that hasn't experienced that somewhere. Talk about analysis paralysis.
Well, in the heart of it is fear, right? Fear and not being sure of what to do, and that fear keeps you in place. So what we do is we help people. I'll talk about what I was working with this client on. So we were helping her put together a sales strategy, so she knew what to do when she woke up, why she was doing it, and build a reality around it. I helped her think about why her potential clients would choose her, as well as why they would choose somebody else, because that needs to be a reality. And what that does is it creates a clarity, so she knows exactly what to do and why she's doing it, instead of, hey, I'm not really sure if this is the right thing or not. It's it's bringing clarity so you can take action instead of just continue looking at data and looking at it in a way of why shouldn't I do this? Like it's more of analysis paralysis is more of why you don't do things. Right. And our methodology is getting clarity so you know why you can do something. And then there's less fear. I'm not going to say there's no fear, but there's always the less fear.
I think less fear. I think it's fascinating because I believe people almost become addicted to the process of the analysis because it's an easier place for them to be than to actually taking the leap and testing what they believe that they can do. It's easier to stay in that known of, okay, well, I'm not just ready yet, but I'll be ready soon. You have those people, but those are the kind of people that also I joke with my friends that read a ton of books, self-help books. And I said, I'm glad, but you're not going to get it through osmosis. And unless you practice it, it's not going to help you. So read 1,000 books, but if you're not implementing it, what difference does it make? They're stuck in analysis paralysis. They don't know how to make the move. They're afraid if they change one little thing, it's going to screw everything up. Well, listen, I guarantee Bryan will agree. You're all going to mess up 1,000 times. Oh. I think I do it daily. I'm sure I do it at least. Ask my wife at least once a day. I mess something up. Ask my kids. I feel like we all, but then we don't want to admit it because there's that stigma of, all right, it's better for me to not put out there that I've made a mistake because nobody will do business with me because I'm not perfect. And I'm sure you don't have perfect clients, do you?
Nobody's perfect, right? So, and this is the one thing about common thinking, or the common narrative in the world is, if you fail, that's bad. If you fail, don't fail. Yeah. The only way to learn and make progress is to fail. Right. Because it's feedback. You have to take it as feedback and make the adjustment instead of, analysis paralysis to me is like a procrastination or an avoidance. So I don't fail. Right. So if you stay in that mode, you don't fail. But I learned when I talked about, crashing in the mortgage industry. I mean, I had a bunch of real estate that I had that just tanked. It was when I look back on it, it's one of the greatest things that happened to me because I learned so much, right? Was it painful? Yes. And at the same time, I learned a lot of things that I'll never do again. And I'll also learn like, hey, when I come to this fork in the road, I go this way instead of that way. So you
learn from it. But you bring up a great point. If you've ever seen that picture, so many of the companies that are ginormous now happened around the time of 2008, 2007 when the crash, because people were forced to. Now you can't stay with analysis paralysis anymore. You don't have a job. Right. Your career is dried up because of the market. So what are you going to do now? And I feel like this reset has really given people an opportunity to really actually reset because they've had no other choice. Like you said earlier, I mean, you're forced into it. What do you see as some of the cool things that come your way? Like, I love the project that you were talking about earlier where you're giving her she's having time to find a clear picture of what she's supposed to do. I would imagine that's what a lot of people come to you with. They need to know. They got a lot of ideas, but they don't know how to focus it. And you're there to help them to focus on it.
You hit that nail on the head. I was like, are you in my business? Right. That's part of the problem is too many options for people. People bring too many options. That's, again, kind of, it's in that space of analysis paralysis, and the options is what clouds things. So it's the removal of options is what actually helps. And it's basically a scientific approach, like creating a hypothesis, getting data, creating a hypothesis on what steps to take, taking that action, and then getting the feedback and saying, well, these parts work, but not that. So let's change that one, right? And move forward. Because in a time like now, this type of thinking is even more important because we're forced to have to think differently, right? You just can't, just do it better than the next guy. You have to be different, and you have to have a different approach. So it's a lot of people come to us stuck, and it's our job to help them get unstuck.
Because I'm sure well, it's also wonderful to have, it's like having a therapist, or in my world, a bartender. It's super important to have somebody to bounce ideas off. And you all are basically their sounding board that's coming from a non-emotional, because I'm sorry, if you're a business owner, you're emotional. You're wrapped up in it. Your whole world is wrapped up in it. And so it's so important to have somebody outside who can look in and see all of the things, and also bring up the things that you might not want to be facing that are actually the reasons that are causing the issues, not the ones that you say are.
Yeah, I mean, you're exposing the true heart of my business, and that's perfect, because really I have a framework that we teach people, and then I just help them think. This lady, Erica, who I was with earlier this morning, I just created this space and the framework for her to think and guide it along the way. And, was there to ask the questions and challenge, like, hey, is that the right thing? Like, are you sure about that? Right. I don't have all the answers. I don't. Right. I tell people if they want the magic pill, they should go somewhere else, because I don't sell magic pills. I help with a framework, and a lot of times that does move into therapy, and that's okay. I mean, I've done a lot of work learning how to facilitate the emotional side. I mean, I even had a client who, she was running into an issue, and we're in a group session. I asked her to talk outside of it. And when we talked through it, the heart of the issue was that she didn't feel worth it. She had a worthiness. And once that was out on the table, she saw it for what it was, said, this is what's keeping me from this action. Her business doubled in 6 months.
I believe that the blockages, people don't give them enough credence because they don't want to face them. But those blockages that you were talking about, hers happened to be that she didn't feel worthy. It drives everything. It drives the boat, the ship, the plane, pick it, and it's driving it. And I think people, because they don't deal with it, they never get to the root, which is why you're still dating the same type of people you dated, which is why you're still having trouble getting past working paycheck to paycheck on your business, which is still why you're stuck in the same thing that seems to always happen to you. There are reasons for that, and one of those is what Bryan was talking about. Sabira said, fail, first attempt in learning.
Yeah,
yes, I don't know if I'd heard that before, but I like that a lot. It's true. People get caught up in that word fail, and then immediately, if they're afraid to fail, so they are afraid to try. It's this weird, insane cycle that goes on. What about the pre, though? I want to talk about. I'm sure you have people come to you, and they're all gung-ho, and they're like, whatever you want me to do, Bryan, I'm going to do. And then, but they don't have a plan. They don't have a plan on how they're going to leave their very nice job with the money coming in every 2 weeks and all of the benefits. They haven't figured, they just think they're immediately going to start, open the doors, and just because I'm Ted Bogert, I'm going to be making $1 million a week. So what are some things that people really need to look at when they come to you? You obviously have these kinds of conversations.
Yeah, and sometimes they're really tough, to be honest, because when you tell somebody, hey, my assessment is you don't have the resources to actually execute on this, it's not received with warm and fuzzies. Yeah. So they're tough conversations, and really what people have to be prepared that it's going to be rough, right? Like, look, if you think this is all going to be, sunshine and roses, then, I wouldn't do this, right? It's right. Challenging. And they have to have an idea, if they leave on Friday, they need to know what they're going to do on Monday. And if it's just like, hey, I'm going to start, talking to people on LinkedIn, it's not clear enough. They have to have a plan, and in an ideal state, have to have some prospects or clients in the wing that can support them if they don't have, money set aside already, right? You're the saying out there is, no matter what, everybody have 6 months, set aside, just if you just have a regular job, or, that's just the safety net. And that's probably the bare minimum to take a leap, because you never know how you're going to, how fast it's going to bring on clients, how long they're going to stay. Can you make them an offer that, or agree to an offer that actually pays your bills for a good period amount of time? Because what we see a lot is a lot of people who have their first couple of clients and they're just paying their bills, or they are paying their bills, and that's as far as they can go. Yeah. Right. So it's helping people think past that, and, putting together a plan so they know how to get from 0 to 2 clients, and from 2 clients to 5 clients.
So let me ask you, I agree. I mean, it's such great advice, because I think there are so many people out there who are in all of these different places that you're talking about as far as their business and where they're at or where they're thinking. And it's just so important for you to talk to a professional about it. You may have a fantastic idea and a great idea, and maybe you even have the resources, but you still need to talk through it, because if you haven't done it before, you're not the expert right now. So you need to, talking with someone, talking with a Bryan is a really great way for you to go. All right. How do people get in touch with you? Let's say they want to be on purpose, Bryan. They want to be intentional. They want growth. They want all those good things. They don't want to be common thinkers. They want to think outside the box. How do they reach you?
So I do a lot on LinkedIn. So I can be found on LinkedIn. It's linkedin.com/in/McDonald Bryan, as well as onPurposeGrowth.com. I know it's scrolling down below here. Those are probably the 2 best ways to get to us. And actually the third is we've got a community for these people leaving corporate America on Facebook. It's the onPurpose Growth community. And we built it as a community because we want people to leverage each other's experiences, right? Don't just, I'm not on an Ivory Post, running the group. Like, listen to other people who've been there and done that. And that's a great place to find us as well.
Fantastic. All right. That was amazing. Bryan McDonald. That was awesome. Thank you so much. You guys reach out. I know you have ideas. You ask me about them all the time. So here's somebody you can go to. You can come to me, yes, but it's, it's not the same as going to a professional who's really, really going to outline it for you and help you get there. So thanks for being on the show, Bryan. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ted. I'm very, very grateful.
See you back later. Thank you. Bye, everybody. Mwah.